How can you be a great ally of the LGBTQ community? Show off your pride with all new shirts, water bottles, hoodies, and more. Only available for a limited time on the PBR merchandise store. Linked in the description down below. Welcome everyone to Power Rainbows. I'm of course your host, Professor Pride. And on today's show, we're giving you some tips on how to be a great ally of the LGBTQ community. But before we begin, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Anyway, on to the show. You might have heard the term ally before in your history class or in the LGBTQ community. But if you're young, you may not know what that term means yet. An ally is basically just a friend you have. It's someone who will help you when you're feeling down, will support you when you accomplish great things, and so on. When it comes to the LGBTQ community, though, an ally is described as a person with a genuine and strong concern for the well-being of LGBTQ people. It's a person who supports and accepts LGBTQ people as they are. They advocate for equal rights and fair treatment. Someone who confronts challenges the community experiences, but most oftentimes does not belong to the LGBTQ community themselves. Basically speaking, for the most part, allies are straight and cisgender, meaning you're only attracted to one gender that is an opposite gender from your own, and you match the sex you were assigned at birth. The best way to describe the roles allies play in the LGBTQ community is to say that you recognize your privilege being straight and cisgender, and you use that privilege for good. Allies are vital in our community because we need your support the most. Having allies lets us know that we are not alone in this fight for equal rights, and we have a friend we can lean on for help when we're feeling down or when we're discriminated against in society. Your support means a lot to us, so that brings up a great question. If you're not a part of the community, how do you offer support to our community effectively? The first tip we have is to stay informed. Take time to educate yourself on LGBTQ topics. Know the different sexual orientations or gender identities. Take time to watch educational episodes like those on our YouTube channel here, and so on. Perhaps follow pages on social media like the Trevor Project, Human Rights Campaign, your state's Equality Project, Gay Times, or LGBTQ Nation magazines, and so on, to stay informed as to what's going on in our community. You have no idea how much it means to us for someone who has no stake in the game of LGBTQ rights to know what we're going through and offer their support anyway. Our second tip is to be a good listener. When something happens, take time to listen to our community and learn from that conversation. And most importantly, don't be afraid to have that conversation. Ask us what it's like to grow up closeted, how we knew it was the right time to come out, what has the coming out process been like for us, how we are doing at the moment, and most important of all, what can I do to support and help you? That brings up another great tip, and that is to always be honest in your conversations with us. If someone comes out to you, the best thing to do is to give them a giant hug and thank them for trusting you with this information. But if you need time to process it, tell them you want to support them, but this is new information to you, and maybe you need a moment to process it. Be honest. This also means to have open and honest conversations with family members, friends, and colleagues who are not LGBTQ, and inform them of what you've learned, and share with them how they can be good allies of the community as well. In fact, you can even ask an LGBTQ person who feels comfortable doing so to join you in that conversation. You can even ask your school or your workplace to hold a meeting on how to be more inclusive to LGBTQ people, whether that means to LGBTQ coworkers and classmates or even customers. A great way to be an ally is to offer reassurance. If someone comes out to you, explain to them how this new information has not changed your friendship or relationship with them. In fact, if anything, it has allowed you to be closer to them and remind them that you will still care for and respect them as much as you have ever done before. Our next tip is to always be open-minded. Our community is made up of hundreds of millions of people. There are endless combinations of sexual orientations and infinite gender identities, all of which are valid and scientifically proven to be valid. So, if you don't understand something, don't be afraid to ask. But keep in mind, when it comes to understanding certain things, LGBTQ people don't owe you an answer. You should be able to research a lot of this stuff on your own online, through platforms like ours. But when it comes to platforms like ours, ask questions in the comments. We're more than willing to help you find the answers. Just because you were taught a certain way your whole life does not mean that it's the only way. For example, schools taught me that being gay is a sin, but after years of research, we showcased on this show how being gay is not a sin in any major religion of the world. Schools also taught us how there's only two genders, but years of research later, we come to find out that it's now a scientific law that there are infinite numbers of genders. So always keep an open mind to new evidence and new information, even if that info doesn't agree with how you were born and raised. Newsflash, your parents might have been wrong about some things. Our next tip is to always invite LGBTQ friends to hang out with you and your other friends and family. Showing you care about your LGBTQ friends just as much as your non-LGBTQ friends means a lot to us and shows us that we will always have a seat at your table. One of the more important ones on our list today is to never suppose anything of anyone. When you're meeting someone new for the first time in work, in school, or in life, never suppose they are straight and never suppose they are cisgender. This means when you meet a guy for the first time, don't ask him if he has a girlfriend. 10% of guys out there will only ever want a boyfriend, and 10% of girls out there will only ever want a girlfriend. And about 5% of people out there won't be the gender you suppose they are, because of gender stereotypes society puts on us. One of the biggest signs someone is a supporter and an ally of ours is given when we meet you for the first time. Ask us our pronouns to make sure you can address us properly. If it comes up in a conversation, don't ask me if I have a girlfriend, because I'm gay, but you don't know that information about me yet. And from then on, I know you're not a great ally of mine because you just supposed that I was straight. But newsflash, I'm hella gay. Another important tip is to stop anti-LGBTQ hatred wherever it exists. It doesn't matter if you're at an LGBTQ pride event with 1,000 LGBTQ people watching you, or if you're in a grocery store and no one is watching you. Stop hate whenever and wherever you find it. For example, I was walking through a convenience store on my way to work one day, and there was a few teenagers joking around in the aisle next to me picking out a soda. One of them called the other a faggot as a joke, but I stopped everything I was doing and educated them how offensive that is, and how being gay should never be a joke. Every time you hear the word gay being used as a joke, stop and educate the person saying it. Sexuality and gender are not jokes. More importantly, if you hear a slur like faggot or tranny being used, you have to stop and educate the person. If they are unwilling to hear that education, that's not your fault. But being an ally means you stop and try to educate them anyway. Our next tip is to confront your own prejudices and bias, even if it is uncomfortable to do so. Ask yourself if you've ever said any slurs or jokes which could be offensive to LGBTQ people, and ask yourself why you thought those jokes or slurs were funny, or why you said them at all. Ask yourself these hard questions, that way you can do better in the future. Next, make sure you're defending your LGBTQ friends from discrimination. If you're in a restaurant and someone makes a comment to your LGBTQ friend for wearing a rainbow shirt, let's say, or the restaurant wants to throw you out for your friend being LGBTQ, your friend might have the courage to stick up for themselves and tell the other person to go to hell, but it would mean so much more if that courage came from you as an ally. Even if you have to leave that restaurant or the situation, your friend knows they can trust you now, and you have their back from then on. And if someone else in a store, restaurant, or public space is discriminating against your friend, ask for the manager, and get that manager to get the other person to leave that place. It should never be a situation where the victim of a crime has to leave a store because they are being victimized. It is the perpetrator who should be forced to leave. Another great way to be an ally is to support equality policies at school, work, or other places that help protect LGBTQ people from discrimination. If you see or hear something being unfairly done to an LGBTQ person, call it out publicly. You can share LGBTQ non-discrimination bills like the Equality Act and so on to help pressure lawmakers to act. You can ask your school to start a GSA Club, and you can even use our 43 tips and resources to help you do that. You can have the open and honest conversation with your peers, with your principal, with your friends, and more to see what you can do to make a meaningful change. Our next tip is to come to Pride events and show your support in person. Come with a group of friends and bring all the LGBTQ people you know to show your support for them in person. For example, my best friend Becca and another of my friends named Mike always take the time to come with me to Pride events. It's one of the best things they ever do for me, to show their support, because I was so nervous to go to my first ever Pride events by myself. They still go with me nowadays, even though I'm Professor Pride and I almost always get recognized at these events nowadays, but they are such amazing allies because they take the time to come with me, even though they are both straight and cisgender. Lastly, come out as an LGBTQ ally. Anyone can be an ally of the LGBTQ, regardless of your sexual orientation or gender identity. Be proud to show that support online and in person. We need your support now more than ever before, and your support means the world to us, so please don't be afraid to showcase that support to the world. And if you really want, there are even ally pride flags available to show that support outside, and we have ally t-shirts available on our Powered by Rainbow store. Anyway, that's all for our episode today. If you have any tips you think we missed, please leave them in the comments down below so others can learn from those tips as well. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you like our content and want to support more LGBTQ education in the future, please consider checking out our Rainbow merchandise store or becoming a member of our channel to see exclusive behind-the-scenes content, bloopers, and so much more from every episode. Don't forget to like this video, comment down below your LGBTQ-friendly thoughts, hit that rainbow subscribe button so you don't miss out on new episodes of the show, and share this video with others. I'm your host, Matt Haslam. This has been PBR. Have a gay day, everyone, and bye for now.